When you think about the economic superpowers, you will probably think of countries like United States, China, United Kingdom or Japan, as they are currently largest and most important economies of the world. In 30 years, most of the world's largest economies will be those that are emerging today, surpassing current economic powerhouses such as the US, Japan and Germany. The United States became the first true global superpower after the end of World War II. At the end of that war, America was home to half of the world's GDP, a proportion that was never before and has never since been matched by any country. Then in the 80s, China started to pick up the pace because of its low-cost manufacturing. Similarly, from past 2 to 3 decades, some emerging countries are showing incredible growth in terms of economy. Experts believe that these countries could be the next superpower by 2050. So let's take a look. To begin, let's take Mexico. The economy of Mexico is a developing market economy. It is the 15th largest in the world in terms of nominal GDP and 11th largest by GDP PPP. The Mexican economy has had unprecedented macroeconomic stability, which has reduced inflation and interest rates to record lows and has increased per capita income. But if we want to know the future of any nation, then first we have to look at its history. The ancient civilizations of Mexico lasted about 2,500 years. Then, in the 15th century, a group of Spanish explorers arrived in the newly discovered continent of America. They were under orders from the Spanish crown to turn what is today's Mexico territory into a Spanish colony. Spanish exploited Mexico for years. They treated natives in an unfriendly and violent manner. They forced natives into harsh labor. They slaughtered many natives and took lots of resources, such as silver and gold from Mexico. However, they never gave anything in return. Spain made encomienda system and enslaved natives. Over the last 3 decades, Mexico has decent performance with an average growth rate of 2% a year. It could have been better, but still Mexico has a chance of becoming economic superpower by 2050 because of major economic reforms made by Mexico government. Currently, Mexico is an emerging market economy and it is expected to become the 7th largest economy in the world in 2050. Jumping up 4 spots from its current 11th place in the rankings. A focus on manufacturing and exports have driven much of its growth in recent years, though current economic conditions have hampered potential gains. Now let's look at Vietnam. The economy of Vietnam is a socialist-oriented market economy, which is 37th largest in the world in terms of nominal GDP and 23rd largest in the world as measured by PPP. In just 2 decades, Vietnam's exports have skyrocketed, which resulted in rapid increase in its GDP per capita from $390 in 2000 to $2,800 in 2020. The history of Vietnam is full of war and destruction, due to which Vietnam lost its factories, cities and countless citizens. For a long time it did not see any economic growth. Then in 1986 Vietnam launched a political and economic innovation campaign Doi Moi that introduced reforms intended to facilitate the transition from a centralized economy to a socialist-oriented market economy. It was a turning point for Vietnam's economy. After this, Vietnam economically moved very fast. This economic miracle of Vietnam is based on manufacturing, which was boosted by trade liberalization, domestic deregulation, and investment in human and physical capital. Due to its political stability, steady economic growth, abundant workforce and geographic location. In the heart of Southeast Asia, Vietnam has become an attractive destination for foreign investment. It is expected to become the 20th largest economy in the world by 2050. Now let's talk about the largest country in Latin America, Brazil. Brazil has a developing mixed economy that is the 12th largest in the world by nominal GDP and 8th largest in terms of purchasing power parity. This means that if the nation does make the jump from developing to developed, it could rival economic superpowers like Germany, Japan, or the United Kingdom. Through the 1980s and 1990s, the Brazilian economy suffered from rampant inflation that stagnated economic growth. After several failed economic initiatives made by the government, in 1994 the Plano Real was introduced. This plan brought stability and enabled Brazil to sustain economic growth over that of the global economy through the coming decade. Agriculture contributed heavily to Brazilian growth. The value of output in Brazil's agricultural industry nearly quadrupled between 1996 and 2006, and the country is now one of the world's largest net exporters of grain, soybeans, beef, oil and iron. It runs a trade surplus in farm output. It is expected to become the 5th largest economy in the world by 2050. Now let's talk about the second most populated country in the world. India. India got independence from Great Britain on 15 August 1947. On the same day, India was divided into 2 countries, India and Pakistan. Britishers had exploited India for 200 years. After independence, Indian economy did not see any growth since 1991. In 1991, India made many economic reforms. The new economic policy of 1991 included standard structural adjustment measures including the devaluation of the rupee, increase in interest rates, reduction in public investment and expenditure, reduction in public sector food and fertilizer subsidies, increase in imports and foreign investment. Indian economy is continuously growing after 1991. The economy of India is characterized as a middle-income developing market economy. It is the world's sixth largest economy by nominal GDP and the third largest by GDP PPP. At a growth rate of 10.1% in 2022, India will be the fastest growing major economy in the world, ahead of China, which is projected to grow at 5.8%, a slowdown from 8.2% in 2021. India is expected to surpass USA and become the second largest economy of the world by 2050. Now let's move towards Philippines. The economy of the Philippines is the world's 27th largest economy by nominal GDP and 18th largest in terms of GDP PPP. The Philippines is primarily considered a newly industrialized country. Philippines' economy is primarily based on service, industrial and agriculture sector. According to NATA's projections, the Philippines can be nearly a high-income country by 2040, with per capita income of $11,000, provided the right policies and programs are implemented now. The average age of country is only 25, which gives it advantage over other countries. Philippines was defeated by Japan in World War II. Japanese were very brutal against Filipinos. 76 years ago today saw the destruction of Manila, and with it thousands of civilians murdered by Japanese soldiers who, facing sure death or capture, decided to drag everyone down into hell with them. No one was spared: the old, the infirm, women, children, and even defenseless infants. To help get war-devastated nation back on track and serve its own self-interest, the United States gave the Philippines economic aid in return for 99-year leases on military bases and free trade privileges. Philippines has great potential and it can become the economic superpower of Asia by 2050. It is expected to become 19th largest economy in the world and 9th largest economy in Asia by 2050. Now let's take Indonesia. The economy of Indonesia is the largest in Southeast Asia and is one of the emerging market economies of the world. As a middle-income country and member of the G20, Indonesia is classified as a newly industrialized country. It is the 15th largest economy in the world by nominal GDP and the 7th largest by GDP PPP. Indonesia's economy is mainly based on trade, manufacturing and services. Indonesia's most important export commodities are oil and gas, minerals, crude palm oil, electrical appliances and rubber products. Export contributes 20% of their GDP. Large growing population of Indonesia is attracting foreign investors. Still, Indonesia's economy is underperforming due to its poor infrastructure. Indonesia can rise as an economic superpower provided they improve their infrastructure. This will also help Indonesia to get out of the middle income trap. It is expected to surpass Japan and Germany's economy and become the 4th largest economy in the world by 2050. So in the next 30 years, these could be the next countries to show major influence on the world economy. Although pandemic has made things more uncertain. Still, we would love to know your views on this. Please write them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching the full video. Please hit the subscribe button and give this video a like. Thank you.